it's time to return to the horror classic, Peter Cushing's Hammer House of Horror with JT and the Whotastic panel.
Hello everybody, welcome to Whose Views. Yes, we are here and it's delighted to see you all. We are back with George, with Third Doctor Ian and with Pete, and here we are as part of our Halloween season here on Whose Views. And yes, we couldn't do Halloween, could we everybody, without continuing our Peter Cushing Hammer House of Horror series.
Absolutely.
It makes sense, would it not, to do that? So here we are. Again, this is all part of celebrating and, of course, tribute to the man himself, the late, great Peter Cushing. We've been looking at some of his work, including, of course, the 2 Doctor Who films he did back at the beginning of the year. We looked at those. But here we are now with this one, The Twins of Evil. So hands up to everybody watching. First time I've ever seen this. I'm going to say it now. Crikey. Not what I was expecting at all. Wow, what a film.
It's a bit intense, isn't it?
It's coming off the back of the one we did before, the Frankenstein one, The Curse of Frankenstein. This was actually it was totally different in tone. It looked visually, it looked different. The performances were really quite heavy in a sense, you know. The script was totally different. I was like, what? Wow. I mean, these things must have evolved as they went on. I'm totally blown away by it, everybody.
Well, we're about, Curse of Frankenstein was the last one we did, So we're about 14, 15 years down the line from that.
Oh.
And, Hammer had moved on. And this one was one of the few that Hammer did on studios. So they had much bigger sound stages to work with. The British Board of Film Censors had moved the goalposts on censorship, and the X certificate was allowed to show more than it had previously from 1970 onwards. So there's a fair bit more flesh and blood in this one than you would have seen in the earlier Hammers.
Oh, totally.
You can tell, can't you?
Yeah, you could. It starts right. I mean, straight away you're into the action. But I was just like, oh my god, they're going for it in this one, aren't they?
Yeah.
What is this?
It has a pre-title sequence.
Yeah.
And lovely Judy Matheson there gets burnt at the stake, and it's like a huge cold opening.
Not really for sensitive people watching. It's all theatre. It's all theatre,
It's quite a hot opening for her, really, isn't it?
There is a great big gap between those twigs and her, by the way, everybody. Just so you know, in real life that is. But that start, the way it starts, I thought, hang on a minute, I've missed something here. I've missed the title, and it worked really well. But my goodness, what an opening! I was just like, all right, so this is where we're going. This is how this is going to be. Look at this. Thank you to everybody that's joining us this evening. We've got a lot of people saying hello to us, guys. We've got Paul saying hello, panel. Stephen said this was an intense watch, JT. It was, wasn't it? I had to concentrate during this film. I didn't have to really in The Curse of Frankenstein, but this one I had to sort of concentrate and listen to what they were saying and all the relationships that are going, all this. And we've got Legion of James saying to us, I binge watched all 3 from this trilogy of Camilla-inspired horror greatness. Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, the first one was The Vampire Lovers, starring Ingrid Pitt. And then it's quickly followed up with Lust for a Vampire, starring Ralph Bates. And then the third of the Collinson trilogy, this one, The Twins of Evil.
Oh, well, there we go. Well, this one came out randomly for us all to watch here on the channel, everybody, because we're trying to do Peter Cushing films and Hammer horrors. And we wanted something that was sort of really, Halloween-y for Halloween as well. David Harding telling me I've owned The Twins of Evil on Blu-ray for a while now. And Legion of James saying the intro is excellent. It was. It captures you straight away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hits the ground running, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It was. I think this is the first and certainly one of the very few times that Hammer did a pre-title sequence. And also, what was interesting is Peter Cushing was billed above the title of the film. The credits actually read Peter Cushing in Twins of Evil, because this was the first Hammer film that Peter Cushing had done in about 2 years. So Hammer were very keen to let the public know that their joint biggest star was back with them. But it was a very poignant time for Peter Cushing, because this was the first film he made after his beloved wife had died, and he just off into his work to cope with it. I mean, you can see looking at him. I mean, he plays such an intense character in this, but you just look at him on screen and you can see huge sadness pouring out of him. And I think a lot of that is his personal grief as well as his superb ability as an actor.
I have to say that, Mr. Cushing's performance in this is mesmerizing, isn't it? It really is. And I was saying to the guys before we came on for the show, Who Viewers, in this, I'm actually seeing elements of Grand Moff Tarkin from Star Wars. And I don't know what it is, but there's the inflections in his voice. It's possibly the body move. It's the sort of snappish, ignorant arrogance. I mean, this character that he's playing in here, though, my goodness, he's taking his goodness to extreme, isn't he? This is a scary character he's playing.
Yeah, very, very intense, and I think it's, just indicative of just his talent as an actor, just the fact that he can transcend so many different roles. But just as George says, this was his first film, really, after his wife passed away. And you can tell, I mean, the godness. I mean, he always had the protruding, bones, but he does look desperately ill in this, and really, grieving. And it's, the fact that he's wearing black, it's almost like he's in mourning for himself.
And he doesn't smile once in the film. His characteristic twinkle of his blue eyes just isn't there.
Going, isn't
all his world famous traits are missing from this film, but he, as Peter said, delivered such a fantastic performance.
So basically, what you're telling us is that he didn't even have time to grieve. He was actually on set doing this very shortly after.
2 months after it.
Poor fella.
He internalized all his grief, and anybody who knows Peter Cushing will know that he was completely devoted to his life, always referred to her as my beloved Helen. And he internalized his grief for 3-4 years. And in 1974, I think it was, he was making a film called The Ghoul at Pinewood Studios, in which he played a priest with a deep, dark secret. And there were scenes where, in character, the priest refers to his late wife and picks up framed photographs of her. And the photographs are actually photographs of Helen, which Peter Cushing brought in. And apparently when they were doing a take, and in character he was talking about the grief of losing his wife as the character, it just all came to the surface. He broke down on set, walked off the set, the only time he ever did that, apparently, in his entire career. And that's when he finally came to terms with the fact that his wife was no longer with him physically.
Oh, bless him!
And that was 3 years after, maybe 4 years after she died.
Oh, bless him! Oh, bless him! That's a story in itself for a decent TV movie, isn't it? Really. Oh, bless! That's awful. We've got a lot of people joining us. Thank you, everybody, for watching us this evening and joining us for our review here on Who's Views of the Twins of Evil. Which these three have all watched. It's been a long time since Ian watched it. These two know it. I've never seen it before, so I think we've got a nice balance here. Mark,
I watched it today again. But I first saw it when I was about 10, and it was like,
10?
ooh, yeah. Ooh. I didn't wear glasses then, but I do now.
That's why you're wearing glasses now.
That's 10 years old. Goodness me.
I loved them by then. The Saturday night horror double bill and everything like that, and on BBC Two. And at this point, I was well into the horror films. Loved it.
So I don't remember these being on BBC. These were on BBC Two on a Saturday night.
No, actually, the first time I saw it, well, I didn't see it in its entirety, but
Right.
I had gone to Italy one year, and I never forgave my mum and dad because we used to always go to Blackpool, and I thought, what the hell are we going here for? And it was a family holiday. We were there for a month, and it was intolerable. And I remember when I came home, and there was a horror season starting on STV that Friday night, and what was on? Twins of Evil.
Really?
And because we had got back so late, I happened to be up and about. I shouldn't have been. I was only about 9, so a little younger than you. But I do remember tuning in, but only for part of it. I didn't see. I saw the beginning.
I hate to think which part you tuned in for.
Well,
that would
along those lines, if you originally saw it on a TV screening back then, you would have seen an edited version because this, amongst many Hammer films and of its type, were trimmed down to be more suitable even for late night TV broadcast. You wouldn't have seen as much of Mary and Madeline Collinson as you did on your viewing today, Ian.
Well, we will talk about that. Listen, we've got Mark.
The number of cuts that were extensive for America. The
apparently like 6 minutes was taken out of it for American release.
That's right, George. Nearly 6 minutes.
We've got Mark McIntosh here telling us here, or saying to us, Cushing's character in this is as much of a monster as the vampires. Yeah, totally. This is what got me about this, because there's no real good versus bad element in this, which is what I equate to Hammer horror. And bearing in mind that these reviews here on our channel here, everybody, are my education to Hammer horror, because I've missed all this. I was more definitely a science fiction fantasy guy. I never as a kid watched the horrors. Horror never really got me. I just thought, oh, whatever, never really bothered with it. So this is part of my education, watching all these and being introduced to these British classics, these gems of British filmmaking. So I'm expecting good versus bad, white versus dark. This wasn't in there because I didn't like the Peter Cushing character at all. I thought, oh no, here we are. This is what we've got to deal with here. And he was an horrible character.
Yeah, I think that was the point of it, to make him an anti-hero.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, he doesn't smile, no twinkle in his eyes, no redeeming features. No. I mean, he's even away from his puritanical zeal on stamping out evil. He's so he's so indifferent to his wife and his family. He treats them with such disdain that a brilliant rounded characterization from Peter Cushing, that he just makes himself thoroughly unlikable.
Commanding.
It is commanding people. I think that's why I saw elements of what would eventually become Tarkin and Star Wars for me, because it was that sort of, I just thought, oh no, I really don't like this character. I don't like, and it's a genius for Peter Cushing to put something together. As we were saying before, it's like it shows his range, because that picture there that I've just shown, that one there he is. I mean, that is definitely not Peter Cushing, is it? That is absolutely his character. And that whole scene there, where this character has been consumed what he believes is correct, i.e. burning everybody, all the women he can get his hands on. There's a word for that today.
I think part of that is his versatility as an actor, combined with the fact that he's still grieving, and I think the two of them consolidated, have kind of manifested in Gustav File.
I mean, that's probably a coping strategy for him. He's
into
his role.
He absolutely threw himself into work after his wife died. He would finish one film on a Friday and start the next one the following Monday.
Oh, bless him. Bless him. To keep his mind off everything.
Yeah, he just did not like having empty days in his diary. It was work that kept him going.
Do you know what? We've got people here, Stephen Braddock, saying Cushing's face was like granite, no expression in this film apart from the intensity of his character. And then everyone is agreeing that it's such a sad story. And it is really, because he must have been so lonely when he went home.
If you've ever read...
that is a story. I know what George is going to say. Sorry, George, take it away.
If you've ever read Peter Cushing's autobiography, he candidly admits in that after his wife died, he seriously considered and attempted to end his own life because he couldn't.
Bless him.
He just couldn't cope. He just couldn't cope with her loss.
That's such a shame. It is such a
and
shame.
Also, the stairs as well.
Yes, he did things like he threw himself downstairs.
Did he?
You know, well, he used to run up and down the stairs
to induce a
try and
heart
give himself a heart attack. Yeah.
Oh,
he
God, love him.
climbed. Apparently, he admitted that things he did was he climbed a pylon to try and electrocute himself.
Oh my goodness! No goodness. Let's get back to the film. Oh no, that's such a sad story.
He harvested what he thought were poisonous fungi in an attempt to poison himself, and
All right.
this fungi, and they just turned out to be mushrooms.
Let's get back to the film.
There is a bit of a silver lining to this very, very sad story. But after one attempt, he found a letter that his wife had left for him. And he read the letter, and she said, "You must go on with your life. We will meet again when the time is right. And you have the rest of your life ahead of you. Do not give it up." And that's what made him go on.
God, well,
George, just remind me. Sorry, what happened to his wife? I knew she obviously died young. Did she have cancer or something?
Emphysema.
Emphysema. Yeah.
Oh, well, bless. Well, there he is, though, as a professional trooper, even though he's got all of that there. Now, I just want to say thank you to everyone in all the subscribers and all the Who viewers that got in touch saying, "Oh my goodness, you're looking at the Twins of Evil. That's my favorite film. That's my favorite film. That's my favorite film." And I was thinking, right, okay, why are so many people liking this? And then I watched it. Yeah, well, no, I think it could be fair enough that maybe because we've got things like this. At times, I felt like I needed to keep giving the Twins dollars.
Well, that's what I mean. There's four good reasons.
Exactly, yeah. And also, Paul Richards saying to us here, like two bald-headed convicts trying to burst out of jail. And I'm thinking now, right now, I know why this could have been. I've never heard of these two women.
Back in the day,
Playboy Playmates. That's why he didn't get Playboy. October 1970.
Yes, that's why they were cast in the film, because they were Playboy Playmates. But back in the early 70s, they originally came from Malta. But back in the early 70s, they became quite a famous duo because they were identical twins. And they appeared in all sorts of British movies. They were always redubbed because they had very pronounced Maltese accents in their voices. So I don't think their own voices were ever used in a film.
No,
really?
Weemus. That would have been horrible.
Yes, let's face it, they weren't cast for the voices, were they?
Well, no, they were because they're beautiful women. That's why. So listen to this film. This film here, The Twins of Evil. Was this written around the fact that they had these two beautiful ladies who could put into it? Because the plot is integral to the fact that they are twins. Because if you don't know, spoiler alert, everybody, I thought these would be two typical vampiric women that come along and just go and try and bite and eat everybody, and I thought that, but no, it wasn't. The good and evil that was coming through was the fact that one of the twins doesn't appreciate where the other twin is going and can't follow the same path. I just thought that was quite good character.
The short answer to that is no. The original idea actually was to cast Kate O'Mara playing both parts and using a double for scenes where they were both together, and then cutting camera angles and split screen and all that sort of stuff to make them look like twins. And then somebody at Hammer House saw the Playboy issue that the Collinson twins were in and said, "No, we're casting them."
Oh, that's fair enough, though, isn't it? I mean, it obviously worked for them. And the performance, I didn't know about, obviously, the dubbing, so that's come through. But I'm going to say, from what the first viewing I saw of it, the performance wasn't bad from the girls. I thought they did quite well. Yeah.
And also, revoicing them actually is pretty successful. Normally, that can be very, very obvious.
Well,
that
dubbing is
has been revoiced.
I mean, they can't even get dubbing right today. You can be watching an advert and suddenly it's like,
yeah. I mean, something that's very close to it. If you watch another Hammer horror that was made around this time, The Scars of Dracula, Jenny Hanley, who was in that, was redubbed. And it's so obvious it's not her voice. Even if it's the first time watching it, you would just look and go, "That's not her voice."
Yeah.
They did that a lot. Ingrid Pitt. She was the same.
Yes.
Robert Kamen in Vampire Circus. Now that's a film you need to see. I know Cushing's not in it, but blimey, Charlie, you need to see that film.
Is that the one Lala Ward's in?
It is, yes.
Right.
Oh, well, there's a Doctor Who connection there. Maybe one day we'll do that.
Yes.
Well, there was in this one, wasn't there? There was a
What?
Who connection in this one, wasn't there, with Toberman?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Roy Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Oh, that.
He was also in Terror of the Autons, wasn't he? He was the circus strongman in Terror of the Autons.
Yeah, and I think he played a Saracen as well, but I just knew that he was Toberman in Tomb of the Cybermen.
Tomb of the Cybermen, yeah.
And he was Quarrel Jr. in Live and Let Die.
Oh, was he?
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yes.
Amarai is saying to us, the still photos use backlighting to great effect.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing about this film. It does look amazing. I mean, you know, you look at this. This is 1971. They're doing this, and as I said, I wasn't expecting such a jump between the last film we looked at in the Hammer for and this, because we're not doing them in order. Who viewers, as your guess? Wow, this was really wow.
This one was financed by the Rank Organisation, so it was shot at Pinewood Studios.
Yeah.
So they had much bigger sound stages, a much bigger backlot. The existing European village set, which is used extensively in Twins of Evil, which has appeared in numerous films redressed, was a standing set at Pinewood. So the interior of Karnstein Castle, that looks absolutely enormous and beautifully designed, constructed, lit, dressed. All that's down to Pinewood being the greatest film studio in the world.
Mm.
Yeah, it was at the time, wasn't it? It had all
that
that resource.
That was actually a 4-picture portfolio commissioned with Rank, because that Twins of Evil was paired with Hands of the Ripper. And then you had Vampire Circus and Countess Dracula together.
This is scary stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
And so even the titles are. Pete's asking us, do you know who voiced the girls' panel?
Oh, I'd have to. I can't remember. I want to say it was Nikki van der Zyl, who was the queen of revoicing back in the day. She's the most likely one, but I would have to double check on that. But I think it was likely to have been Nikki van der Zyl.
Really? We've got this as well from Amaray. The Collinson sisters were in Playboy prior to the movie. One died not long ago.
That's right. Yeah.
Gosh, so did they have a successful career after this then, or was it just like a flash in the pan for them because they were twins?
They had a few years popping up and popping out in various British movies.
They actually went on to form a pop group called Baccarat.
What?
I'm only joking.
Oh, thank goodness! What are you talking about?
Actually, see when I was a wee boy and I saw that, I actually thought it was Baccarat that were in it. But, no, obviously it isn't.
Mark Greaves is with us saying, I don't believe that Peter Cushing and Hammer don't get the credit they deserve from the mainstream, both giants in film. They absolutely are, Mark. And this is one of the other reasons we're doing this thing, so that I can see what I can discover them as well, and we can talk about them together here on the channel, because they are British classics, and we don't talk about British classics enough, do we? Probably because we're not allowed to in this day and age.
What I find with this film is it kind of mess with my head, because Frida is, even though they're identical twins, they're not identical in nature. She's the one that's more voracious. She's the kind of pleasure-seeking one. And that is more attractive, whereas the other one looks really dull and wet by comparison, and you think that she's evil, but I like her better, and that's why Anton, he fancies her. He fancies her. The difference.
That's tame. Fancies her. I mean, for heaven's sake. But the thing about Frida as well is that you are, because she's a bit like she's a bit like a pink lady in Greece, isn't she? She's out for the good time, and she's going to go and get the good time wherever she can. And she's certainly a rebel, because the uncle, played by Peter Cushing, I mean, he is so OTT. I mean, the other sister, of course, she's terrified of everything going on around her, especially this man. Do you know what I mean?
Neurotic.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not going to help her confidence, and you know, is it? But the other one, the rebel, the rock and roller, you just know she's going to get into trouble. But goodness me, I wasn't expecting a Dracula type character though. Everybody, I really wasn't. I was, you know, this came as a bolt out of the blue to me. This fella,
pretty good. He's pretty good. Actually,
brilliant.
It's actually
Damien
called
Thomas.
Twins of Dracula in America. This film.
Oh, was it? It was called the Twins of
Dracula.
Dracula.
CIC distributor suggested it. But then they thought they were okay, but then it get cut really badly.
So the film did okay at the UK box office, but was a big hit in America as Twins of Dracula.
Wow. So this, yeah, like people used to say that. So that was David Warbeck, wasn't it? Is that right?
No, that was Damien Thomas.
Damien Thomas, Collinson. Right. Sorry, so that's Damien Thomas.
And Warbeck is the Anton.
Did Damien there get the chance at all of ever playing Dracula apart from this?
Well,
because he's playing them here and he's very good.
He was on the first reserve list with Hammer. By this time, Christopher Lee was always saying, "No, I'm not going to do another Dracula movie. I've left those behind. I'm not going to do one." And Hammer would look round at alternatives to Christopher Lee. Ralph Bates was almost Dracula at one time, and then when Christopher Lee yet again said, "I'm not going to do any more," they were looking to cast Damien Thomas as Dracula. And from the Twins of Evil, you can see why. But Hammer put enough noughts on the check to get Christopher Lee to agree, and Christopher Lee came back and did some more Dracula movies.
Wow. But he's very good. He's very. I love the way that he. Again, I was a little bit misled when I've introduced this character because then I thought immediately, this is going to be a baddie, and then I thought, no, he's not actually. He's going to get eaten, and then I realized he was the baddie. I just thought, and that whole thing with the ex coming back, which is a bit of a nightmare for any of us. Let's face it, we don't want that. But you know, and I thought, hello, this is dodgy stuff. Hello, what's going? Oh, madam,
what did you think of the candle scene?
Well, I just thought,
I thought she was going to whack him with it at one point. And I thought, no.
You did say whack there, didn't you?
Yes, sorry.
You did sort of,
that would have served him right. That would have got his right.
You have to put into context. This is the end of the 60s, the beginning of the 70s, with the whole revolution going on, the sexual revolution, and all this sort of stuff. And it's very British in that we're still not quite talking about it here. I mean,
in
things go fuzzy, and there's a row of dots.
Yeah, in January 1970, the British Board of Film Censors changed the X certificate from 16 years admittance to 18 years admittance. And they pushed the boundaries back a bit and allowed more explicit violence and more explicit sex and more explicit nudity. So James Carreras at Hammer said,
hey!
Well, we'll stay with that in a second.
Never had a good time since, has it? Really? Oh my God.
Amma Ray saying, please let us not forget Katya Weith.
Yes.
Who is also in this. Unfortunately, like many actors, the career did not progress. And then last I heard about Katya was she was working at a whiskey distillery. Oh, which one?
Really? I didn't know that.
There you are.
What happened to her character, though? She turned Karnstein and then disappeared. She just vanished, didn't she?
Yeah, she just made her mark, so to speak, and then
But you're right, Ian, on that. I get a bit confused because I thought this is the ex who's dead, who's come back to basically.
Yeah. And well, it was an ancestor. I think it was more
Well, she was. She was supposedly the link to the Karnstein family. That she was Mia Karla, who was in the previous film Lust for a Vampire. Though
I see.
She was played by Jutta Stensgar.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. This is
actually the best of the trilogy because there was Vampire Lovers with Ingrid Pitt and Kate O'Mara as George.
This is brilliant. You see, now this is all news to me. So what was happening is like I would go and see Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. People back then were going to see these films in order. They must have been very annoyed when the actors kept changing.
Well,
It's like
it's
Miss
weird
Ellie
because
in Dallas, you know.
because the three Constantine films were all made within a year of each other. You know, Peter Cushing appears in the first one, The Vampire Lovers, as a completely different character. Had his wife not been terminally ill, he would have appeared in the second one. And then he came back and played Gustav in Twins of Evil. So you have the same actors across the trilogy playing different roles in each of the films.
Oh, and Lust for a Vampire is an absolute turd.
Well, Lust for a Vampire is so bad it's good. If you want to watch a really cheesy, every cliche in the book horror movie, then Lust for the Vampire is the one to go for.
It's even got a song in it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's stick with the one we got, please, guys. Come on, you're getting carried away now. Let's stick with Twins of Evil. Don't confuse me. Stick with this one, because otherwise we won't know what we're talking about here. Thank you, everybody, for everybody that's joining us in here in the chat. There's some great stuff going up here from everybody. Cara, it doesn't matter that you're late, my lovely. It's nice to see you. Cara's with us, everybody. Legion of James is also saying to us here, Harry Robinson's score for the film was perfect. Hammer always seemed to put as much effort into the film soundtrack as they did the films. It creates the whole perfect atmospheric package. Again, as a newbie to this, there was a huge difference in the score. This was almost operatic.
Yeah, it was like a spaghetti western type.
Yeah, I mean, it's very sort of gallopy. I've just made a new word there.
I mean, it just screams vengeance at you. You know, this sort of, you know, like the film itself, the score is relentless. It just keeps going, very strident.
Yeah,
you know,
but it's also got those elements of spookiness in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you know, unlike the score for The Curse of Frankenstein, you know, which is very orchestral, very gothic. You know, this is anything but gothic.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's again, it shows you how the movies have progressed in all this time, because it's totally different. It really is, and you can see, because we've jumped from that film there, and then there's this one here, and you go, oh my goodness me, wow! And I'm really looking forward to finding out what's in between now. You know, all these different things with Peter Cushing, because it was just completely built on and enlarged, and just so exciting to see.
Wait till you see some of the last few that Hammer did, where they were struggling to keep the brand going and tying up with just about any genre going to try and get a box office hit. There is, at the end of Hammer's time, would you believe, JT, a kung fu vampire film?
Yes, I would. You know, yes. I would believe that.
You haven't lived until you've watched The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires.
And it's really entertaining, let me tell you. You know, I hate to admit that, but it is.
We've got a question here. George, do you know if there's any footage on the cutting room floor? I know that for Satanic Rites, there is over a minute missing due to censorship. The censorship board.
I believe there was some nudity that was trimmed down. Unsurprisingly featuring the Collinson twins, that despite the new relaxed censorship at the time, the British Board of Film Censors saying, no, you're going to have to lose some shots and some frames here and there for us to pass it.
Oh, really?
Just purely in the interests of research, George, do those cuttings still exist?
I don't know if the footage still exists, but still do. There are I'm sure if you were to do an internet search,
I wouldn't dream of doing anything.
I would not expect that of you at all.
But yes, there are stills taken on set of the Collinson twins, which are showing even more than you see in the finished version of the film.
Goodness me. I get that. Mark Greaves is saying to us, I wonder how many films Hammer could make in the time it takes to create a modern movie. Now, these things were, I'll be nice. They were churned out in a nice way. They were, because they were popular, and you had to feed the audience, didn't you? Yeah, but even though here, I don't know how many they were doing at this point, 1971.
Well, they were still doing. They were still
the
doing
quality
six films a year.
Yeah, but the quality is still there. I didn't feel that this film was rushed in any way at all.
No.
You know, it's very, very good. I did enjoy this, Who Viewers. I really did. Just thinking, hang on, I think it was because it was actually so different. and not what I expected. It really took me by surprise.
I mean, it looks beautiful as well. I mean, it's the colour in it. You know, it's really good gothic atmosphere as well with the graveyard scene.
Oh,
when when the vampire attack. And, I mean, I think it's just got everything that it really has. You know, especially for a 70s Hammer. You know, when they started to go downhill. You know, it was very patchy. You know, and very hit and miss some of their films at that point.
I suppose at this point as well, 71. I mean, Hollywood by this point was getting into the horror field as well, isn't it? Because it's not long before you get things like The Omen and stuff like that coming up, is it?
Yeah. Well, the real turning point on that was The Exorcist.
The Exorcist.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the game changer.
Right. So that was it.
And
really,
I mean, I suppose in some ways, Rosemary's Baby as well. You know, that kind of really was quite seminal. And that just showed audiences, you know, what they were capable of.
There are. I mean, let's go to the performance in this. Every performance in this keeps me guessing, and that's what I quite liked about this. So I don't know about you, Third Doctor Ian, but I was watching this thinking I can't figure out who's who. Who's the baddie? Who's the goodie? What's going on? Nobody's innately good in any way, shape, or form. Really, they've all got something. Even this fella. I can't see he's an innately a heroic hero at all, because he's got this element where, hang on a minute, he is going to jump the bones on one of the girls if he gets the chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was gagging for it, basically, wasn't he?
Yes. He's a school teacher.
The other thing about this village, it seems that it's only the girls that get an education, the boys don't.
Well, they're too busy frolicking in the woods, aren't they, really? And burning
they're out hunting boar, aren't they?
They're out there killing the boar, you see.
And too busy getting their trousers very, very tight.
Or down.
Notice that.
Yes. And it has to be said that
around the forest wearing those.
Yes. It has to be said, some of those young girls at the school, they were mid-20s if they were a day.
No,
and
exactly.
they had some very 1970s hairstyles.
There is actually, George, do you have the network release of Twins of Evil?
I do indeed, yes.
I think there's an extra on that that's to do with a song that's being sung in the school. I don't know if it's...
Oh, yes,
isn't that?
His chart hit.
Is that what it is? Oh, right. Is that an inverted commas?
Yes.
We've also got Stephen saying to us here, there are no nice people in this movie, just shades of grey and black.
Yeah.
Do you know, that actually might be what makes it work. Because once you suddenly realize, once I suddenly realized and relaxed over the fact, no, there's no good team and bad team here, as I was expecting, you know, oh, there's the vampires, boo, here's the heroes, hurrah. Right. And when I suddenly realized, hang on a minute, that's not happening in this film, I sort of relaxed a bit more and went with the plot a bit more to be able to say, right, who's going to either have who or who's going to heat the other one, you know, because it was really quite, hello.
It makes you think, though, doesn't it? It's a refreshing change from just good and bad. Really, it does make you think, which is no bad thing. But I've got a question now, Peter, George. So this is a trilogy of films and everything. I noticed in this one that the vampires were completely unharmed by daylight. Did that copy through into the other two films, or is that just a strangeness of this one?
Well, I think Ingrid Pitt was out and about in
daylight, yes,
wasn't she?
I've seen the others, but I can't remember them as much as I remember Twins of Evil for some reason.
I'm pretty sure Jutta Stensgaard, does she know outside doing exercises?
Yes, but isn't it with the Karnsteins, they only become they go from human form to vampire by night? Wasn't that the get out of jail free card?
That was what they made up.
Right.
Doesn't it change from depending on the script requirement? I mean,
yes. But the other thing, excuse me, one minor thing. One minor thing that lets this film down a bit, and it's a criticism that can be leveled at a lot of hammers, is to keep the budget down. They did day for night filming, where a night scene was shot in broad daylight and the filter was put on the camera.
You could see that. You could tell.
It becomes so obvious it's shot in daylight because even what's supposed to be the dead of night, characters are casting shadows and all this sort of thing.
I mean, I suppose we can tell it now. I suppose back then they didn't. They couldn't be able to start because we know more about the filmmaking process now than they would have done, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But you can actually tell.
But also, when the film prints were made for cinema exhibition, those day for night scenes would be printed a bit darker, so you'd lose some of the definition, but it would look inkier and darker on screen. But you just wouldn't be able to make out the detail anywhere near as well as all the other shots in the film.
Right.
And then there was sometimes it would, there was elements that it would really backfire, like some of the crew being reflected in one of the coaches.
I bet you see that on all the Blu-rays and stuff now, don't you? Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
or you can see the shadow of a boom mic at the corner of the set or something like that.
Fabulous. So British, it's unreal. That's what we love. I mean, I like this one. Mark Milford is saying to us here, our resident Who's Poet Laureate, beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster. That's brilliant, Mark. I absolutely love that. And there's a scene I actually quite like, and it's this scene where these two have got together. And what performances are going on here? And yet the characters themselves are basically the same character. It's two versions of, what's that saying about the same coin, two sides of the same coin or something like that? You've got you've got Peter Cushing's character, which is so intense, and you've got this other. I mean, I was absorbed to this conversation, and he actually ends up giving the Cushing character the ways and means to get rid of these people. He's quite happy to say, no, you have to do this. You're doing it wrong, you stupid idiot. You don't burn them. You do it this way. You chop off their heads. I mean, hello, what's going on?
That's like Shearer tips.
Yeah.
But Cushing's character has rubbed his nose in it, hasn't he, by bringing him his dead sister killed by a vampire and displaying it in the classroom.
Yeah,
so it's sort of like he's done a little bit of subtle engineering there, which snaps him out of.
You just know that when the director shouted cut on that scene, Peter Cushing turned around to David Warbeck and said, "Would you like some tea, dear boy?"
You would hope so, wouldn't you? You would actually hope so, because it was such a good scene between the two of them. Really, really good stuff. And you're right about that scene where the sisters brought in as well. That is horror. That's proper horror, isn't it? To do that in front of the character's brother and go da-da, like a cat would bring in a bird. Give me a reward now.
And she actually played a vampire in Kiss for the
Vampire. That's right, Isabel Black. Yeah,
Isabel Black. Yeah.
Oh, so they had their own sort of like little rep type company.
Oh yeah. Like the
Carry On films.
Yeah, like the Carry Ons, they had their own pool of actors that Hammer would often draw on.
Really. I love that. That's nice, though, isn't it? It's like how we used to work. I suppose it's similar these days, but
until the 70s, right enough, and then it was anybody was fair game. They were just like picking them.
It's great to see you all in the chat. Thank you for joining us here on Who's Views for this. This is part of our Halloween season, but it is also part of our celebration, if you like, of the work of Peter Cushing in our Hammer House of Horror series. And as I say, this is me discovering the Hammer House of Horror films, because I am not aware of them. I don't remember seeing them. I've never really gone out to look at them. And this one was, this one was certainly enlightening. Let's put it that way. Can't tell you how much I enjoyed it as well, because it was completely different to what I expected. Yes, I mean, we're talking about characters and stuff here, everybody. The relationships with all these characters are just superb. And when he actually does cross to the dark side, wow. I mean, this is he's not nice, is he? Come on, this is chilling. What a performance this is. And this bit here where he's about to eat her.
Frida gets her money's worth, doesn't she? That's what she was after. So by God, she got it.
The sequence where Damien Thomas bites, and I can never remember if it's Mary or Madeline Collinson. Madeline on the bosom. On take one, his fangs snapped.
What?
And he had to have a new set of teeth made.
Tough tits, clearly.
I was going to say, there
you go. Tough titty.
There's an awful lot of that. Why do they always go for the bosom area? I mean, even this scene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
it
play
would
with
be,
theatre.
This was a bit sort of hello, wasn't it? I mean, hello.
yeah.
I wonder why these films were popular. JT says to himself. Oh, JT says.
Well, the thing is, 2-3 years previously, in 1969, before the guidelines had changed on what was allowed in an X certificate film, Hammer wouldn't have been able to film that.
No.
Oh, really?
No. In fact, I think there was a lot of pairs that were hoping for some twin-on-twin action, when they announced that title.
God.
Yeah, seriously.
So Sydney Rough Diamond is saying that's artistic. We all know where you're coming from, fella.
The Dirty Anorak Brigade, I think they were all.
Yes, of which Frank Spencer naturally also belongs.
You can only think of the film titles for those.
I mean, I still can't get. It's like the Carry Ons, isn't it? In a sense, I still cannot get my head around the fact that people used to go out and watch these in the cinema and pay good money to go into a cinema and watch this series of films. I mean, it's inconceivable to me these days. It's like the Carry Ons, because we're so used to seeing them on a small telly and DVD.
On a double bill as well.
Yeah,
double bills.
I mean, I'm of an age where I can remember going to see the last few of the Carry Ons in the cinema when they were first released.
Amazing.
And one of my earliest clear memories of going to the cinema was going to see Carry On Abroad at my local Odeon. The cinema was packed to the rafters, and to this day I can remember seeing people literally falling off their seats laughing as the film was on the screen.
It's lovely, isn't it? So it must have been very similar for these Hammer horrors, because you had the two giants, you had the comedy set there, and then you had the horror bit as well.
And instead they were under the seat.
I'm just thinking. I mean, these are tame for us today, aren't they? And you can actually see the sort of suggestions of all the, the way it's going on a little bit here. It's very suggestive. It's very sort of, it's not subtle exactly, but it's very exotic. And that's vampires for you, I guess, isn't it? They're always supposed to be, on the pull.
Well, fast forward a few years when I was in my teens. I was this height when I was 13, 14 years old. And I was getting in to see what were then X films. And the local independent cinema in my hometown used to do double bill revivals of various films, like do a double bill of James Bonds, a double bill of Carry Ons, and another one they do is a double bill of Hammer horrors. And when I was either 13 or 14, I got in to see a double bill of Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell and Vampire Circus.
Oh my God, what a double bill. Absolutely amazing.
And Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell was the first film on, and I was practically wetting myself watching it. But loved every single minute of it. And when I came out of the cinema at the end of that double bill, I was hooked on Hammer horror.
That's great. That's great. Dennis Price was a really lovely guy, I've heard, says Armoray.
Apparently, he was in very poor health when he made Twins of Evil, and was in a lot of pain. And really struggled to get through his scenes.
Did Dennis Price have issues with alcohol?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
He was a regular in the first series of the Navy Lark, I think, with Pertwee on the radio in the late 50s.
Yeah.
And then he dropped out for some other reason, which I can't remember. And apart from coming back for the odd cameo, that was it with Navy Lark, and he popped up in various films. So I always catch his name when I see it.
It was in the Theatre Blood. He was one of the victims of that.
Yeah. But I mean, he basically pickled his liver.
Oh my gosh.
Such a shame.
That's a horror film in itself. Stephen Braddock is saying to us that was high art back then. Well, that was their excuse. We're talking about all the bosom chomping going on. And Kara's with us.
I suppose they would go to these double bills and they would be so popular because, I mean, if you put yourself in the context of the era, you've got 3 TV channels. They're not that adventurous or racy. You've got some good stuff on, obviously, but they're not on 24/7, these channels, and people would get their entertainment elsewhere, and the cinema would be much bigger draw.
And those days as well, you'd go on a date to the cinema. So I would imagine the Hammer horror films were a great date night for your first date.
Another big difference of going to cinema even into the 1970s was color.
Of course, yeah. Kara's with us saying visions of a vampire sinking their teeth into fake breasts and not getting the best reaction, fangs full of silicone filler, LOL. Komodo is with us. Komodo is saying many European actors in the 70s would cross borders to play for other countries' independent film companies until America and Hollywood hijacked them with open checkbooks and ruined everything. A good observation. It killed our industry here in the UK, all that sort of stuff. You know, and also Amore, this is totally the Collinson's costumes deserved an Oscar.
Absolutely.
They look fabulous on the hangers, didn't they?
Oh, but they are. I mean, this is typical, isn't it? Dress twins the same, even though twins are not the same person. It's a bit unfair. And here they've got that incredible pink version thing as well, which just lights up the screen, doesn't it? In that shot they're in.
A kind of canary yellow one.
The canary yellow. But
what plumage is this?
Yeah. Well, the canary yellow is well.
Yeah, I think that's the one where she's out and about during the night and she attacks.
That's right. Yeah,
but it also shows up the blood well from a costume design point of view, doesn't it? Because it just gets a little bit raunchy.
But also they're very vivid colours which stand out on very unsaturated colour sets, so they're the focus of attention. Like they needed any help.
No. Well, not. They didn't need any help in their own
right.
I mean, come on.
And also, it's just suddenly struck me, this is the one film, you know, Peter Cushing's one golden rule, or one thing that he would never back down on being cast in a film, was he always had something blue close to his face. So in a close-up, it reflects his blue eyes. He doesn't in this film, does he?
He doesn't, but as we proved in that picture before, look at those eyes.
Yeah. But, you know, point in case, Doctor Who, he had the blue scarf.
Yeah.
So when he had the close-up, it really made his eyes stand out.
Yeah. I mean, him and his merry men are not very nice people, are they? I mean, those scenes he does, that shot where they are actually together. I mean, that was very cultish. It also reminds me of things that are happening in this modern day. Really, I was thinking, hang on a minute, this is happening now. But it's just, again, it's that sort of traditional vampiric horror element here of these people taking, you know, religion in their eyes, saying, right, no, we're going to do this, and they're going around and burning everybody that well. I mean, it was how many young ladies? 3, 4 that they burnt in this film? Wow.
It's like, you know, the kind of Matthew Hopkins all over again. You know, it's
there's definite shades of that. But you know, to show how amoral Peter Cushing's character was, you know, and they say, you know, but it's your niece, Gustav. Yeah, so what, burner?
Yes, because the devil is with them, isn't it? Yeah. Although there is that element, I thought that there is a sort of Cushing brings at that point a sort of reluctance. He does think about it for a minute, doesn't he? And then realizes, no, actually, no, this is not what I stand for. But there is that, and it's just that little glimpse in his eye, and as he doubts for just that 1 minute that he's doing the right. I thought that was so good. What a performance the man gave.
And I think the way he sees himself too, as that, you know, the brotherhood, you know, they're kind of counting on him as if, well, he's the man, you know, so he's got that pressure as well.
You can see his relief when he realizes that he's burning the wrong one, so he frees her. You can see the relief on his face that at least, you know, they've realized that before it's too late. But I think that we've talked about the set of the castle and everything, but that meeting room's a hell of a set as well.
Oh, it's brilliant.
They film it from the back, don't they? So you look down on it and you see it looks huge. It's amazing. It's brilliant camera work.
Well, even the smallest soundstage at Pinewood was much bigger than the biggest soundstage at Bray, where the majority of the Hammers were shot.
Right.
Yeah, but it shows again the talent of these people, because they knew how to do it, how to make things look epic, to the point where here we are all these years later on, 50 years later on, looking at these things and thinking, wow. So when you get new people coming to these films like me, I'm looking at this thinking, oh, that's really well done. And I'm really appreciating all the hard work and the creativity, the imagination. It's just, wow, it blows me away.
The total budget.
Sorry.
The total budget for Twins of Evil was £205,000.
How much?
£205,000 was the total budget for the film.
Heaven's sake, you wouldn't even get an actor for that these days, would you?
No.
Do you know what I mean? So how much did Cushing get?
See, even when you go back further, Justin, if you see Peter Cushing in The Mummy, that is a beautiful looking production. I mean, really handsome production values in that one. And that was 1959.
Well, it's great because we will get around to them at some point.
Yeah,
no order to this. We just put the names into a bingo hole, like we turn it round, and then the thing pops out, and we go, right, we'll do that one. Mark Greaves, why are the Hammer films so rarely shown on television? Is it a licensing issue? No, because it might scare somebody, mightn't it? And somebody might complain.
No, I don't know what's happened there. They're just streaming, everything's streaming. They're on YouTube, and
they'd have to put trigger warnings out, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they do pop up every now and then. Talking Pictures TV have screened quite a few Hammers.
They have to be fair.
Sydney Rough Diamond is
saying Legend as well. We're doing quite a few Hammers on Sunday night, I think.
Well, there you go. Hammer films always had amazing production sets and costumes, says Sydney Rough Diamond. They absolutely did. You know, and I've only seen 2 so far, so Sydney Rough Diamond. I'm very impressed with the 2 we've seen so far. Looking forward to looking at other. I mean, where did they get all these? You just think, I mean, in this one, there's horses as well, and there's chariots, and there's, the road near Pinewood with all
Black
the trees.
Park.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, you just know where everything is, but you just think, oh my goodness, it's just amazing. Stephen's saying to us, what about the beautifully filmed scene where the hooded figure floats towards the Count?
That's Mircalla.
It is good though, isn't it? That is quite good. At that point you go, hello, what's this? What's entering the room now? I wasn't expecting a ghost.
Yeah, pure Gothic drenching.
And then they get it on.
I know. There you go. I think it was a Hammer film or something.
Yes.
Absolutely ridiculous behavior going on in these films. Hammer gave us some terrific Gothic horror films. Well, I've only seen 2, and if there's
some of the very best.
Wow. So excited about looking at them. Stop it, Pete Harrington, saying shoot his dinner money, 200 grand. Behave yourself. Behave yourself. Hey B. Peter Cushing was a favorite. Also loved him in Sherlock Holmes. Yes, that's true. And Frank Spencer saying 205k is about 3 million today. That's Blumhouse budget for films. I can't believe that they did so much as they did, including paying all the staff.
Yeah.
Wow. God, we were a cheap industry. No wonder we went under.
Well, no wonder it kept going for so long.
It's a miracle that they kept it going for so long, wasn't it? Because
it was inflation that killed the British film industry.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. Yeah. Because it was coming in about this point, wasn't it? The 70s would have destroyed everything around about 74, 75. Hello, Geordie boy. How are you? The use of colour in the Hammer sets was a sense of pride to the makers. Cool. Use of colour. Yeah, they're going back to the costumes and stuff. There is a contrast, isn't there? Because the actual film, it's not. I can't really use the word grainy. The actual film looks atmospheric. It looks dark, and it's the costumes that bring that out a little bit more.
Really, they bring it to life. It's lush. I mean, it looks really lush to me.
Yeah. It does look lush. I mean, it's not as if they even went out and borrowed costumes. These were made for the film, I take it.
Not all of them. Some of them would have come from stock.
Wow.
I mean, I would imagine the costumes, the Mary Magdalene Collinson were made specifically for the film. But a lot of them
I would imagine they'd have to be.
Yeah, a lot of them would have been hired in from the likes of Angels.
Oh gosh, of course, because they were still around then. Paul Richards, did you all notice Toberman? He's asking us that. We did actually, we did. What character he was playing as well? Protecting the Count, or whatever we call him in this. And the other brilliant thing about this character, because he's not nice, is he? Count Karnstein.
No.
Everybody's expendable. To save his own little skin, even though he's at this point did.
But Wackham's very good at charades, isn't he?
Charades, and Oh dearie dear.
Coming with
With torches and stakes.
What's that? He's trapped down a well.
I have to
should
say,
just stand there on camera and go.
As if any films could make money with that going on. Yeah. Couldn't even get spin-off TV series from that, could you? If you know, you know. Was anybody else though with that character, that Count? Careful, I would say that, but that Count. Getting back to the Carry On films, but no, the Count. I was quite happy when the end happened. Because I was so fed up with him. He was really getting on my wick. He really was. Somebody do him in.
I mean, another thing was the final shot of his decomposed body.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Stays on screen the entire length, the end credits roll up. It doesn't fade to black or anything. Again, which is something that Hammer wouldn't have done a few years previously.
Oh, why? Because it was too in your face.
Yes, the most graphic shot of the film stays on screen for a good minute.
It's a good effect even today, though. It reminds me of everything that came after it. Indiana Jones, Doctor Who with Dragonfire. It's that melting, isn't it? And I just thought, wow, look, they did this in '71. This is fantastic.
And even the bright pink credits coming up, everything's so vivid about the film.
If you want to see the first Hammer Dracula film, also known as Horror of Dracula, Christopher Lee's death scene at the end of that, which a few years ago all the missing footage was rediscovered, and the full disintegration scene now exists. And you look at that and think, dear God, this was 1958. One, they got away with putting this on screen, and two, it is so well done.
Absolutely.
And another one on that line is one of the lesser Hammer films, The Mummy's Shroud, which is an enjoyable film to watch, but the mummy's death, the mummy's death at the end of the film, where the mummy literally claws itself to pieces, is phenomenal.
Julianne is saying to us here, Hammer films on the terrestrial channels is problematic for modern audiences. Oh, don't we know it, Julianne? We really, really do. Dave was just saying to us here as well, even with that budget, you see every penny made it onto the screen. Totally.
And more besides.
Yeah. Mark Greaves, I can just imagine the Who's Views cast running one of those Hammer Tarvins. What do you mean? Excuse me.
Sorry. You're going to the castle.
I'd be more like
lots of heaving, foaming jugs. The veil, obviously.
Yes, and the drinks.
Yes. Lots of mirth and innuendo on the way as well. What's this from Komodo? Hammer and Italian directors like Bava and Argento knew how to use color to psychologically preempt an action. Green often means imminent death. Some of the Eccleston series does similar, does it? So, really? All right, I'm tuned into that now. Thank you, Komodo. When we next do our next Hammer, I'll be looking out for colors.
Yes. Well, did you notice in this one, the leading up to the final showdown where Constantine's in the crypt? And comes up on the balcony, a color filter is put on, and the edges of the screen have sort of graduating colors around it.
No,
which really enhance it.
No, I did not watch that. Did you see that, Ian?
I don't recall that. No,
I didn't notice that. I might have to watch it again. And Kara's saying, go back to this film. I thought that Peter Cushing made a great Witchfinder General. He was so good, wasn't he, Kara? And he was really, really scary.
He's really on a par with Vincent Price's Matthew Hopkins in Witchfinder General in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see him actually doing something that I wasn't expecting, because, it's not the mad scientist approach here. This is totally different. And I love the way he just at ease performs this.
He's obsessed.
Yeah, totally. And it's the religious, side of it, and the fact that really believes in the burning,
he's a zealot.
Oh, it's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely horrible.
He's sort of like a Mary Whitehouse 200 years before her time.
I say, steady on, steady on. But I mean, even these bits here. This bit was the one scene I was absolutely loved this. This is where this whole doubt has come into the character. He's got it in the chamber, the meeting room. It's here as well. It's so well performed. This is the bit, of course, where this fella on the left is saying, "I'll do it." He said, "No, I won't do it." And just takes that responsibility as the leader of all this nonsense. But as we said, when they come to rescue the girl here, the twin here, again, it's played. But there's also that sort of thing that comes off the back. At this point, you realize, oh, hang on, she's still out there. And I have to say, the resolution to that character, which goes from this point here, isn't it? Really, where they're all trying to. I mean, there is that one camp element, guys, where the Count is basically reading the script. There, you see, they're coming along there, and they've got stakes.
Yeah, they've
got swords.
That's the charade scene. Yeah,
where it turns into an edition of Give Us a Clue.
Yeah.
You just need Lionel Blair, don't you? That's it.
Yeah. And here's Una Stubbs.
Oh yes, I got it.
Yeah, and she fit into this. She'd be great in this film. Poor good old Una, wouldn't she? She'd be very good. She'd be like, fantastic. But I love all that bit because you just think, hang on a minute. But even though I was aware of it, even though I was expecting it, the way this is done, I was not expecting it the way because it was just so
lopping her head off. Yeah.
Yes, and again. For its day, that was a very graphic decapitation.
Well, it bloody was, because you actually it's filmed so well, and it's a shocker. It's an absolute shock. Here he is.
You see the headless body drop to the floor.
It's brilliant. It was, and I was sitting there going, I went, oh, honestly, guys, I went, oh, because it was just step over it next. Yeah.
Oh, well, if you enjoyed that, you want to watch another Hammer film, The Plague of the Zombies, where Jacqueline Pierce gets decapitated.
I love Jackie. We'll probably watch them all.
Yes.
And Vampire Circus as well has a bit of a good decapitation.
And Vampire Lovers. Ingrid Pitt gets very graphically decapitated in that.
Well, listen, I tell you, as long as it's Peter Cushing, we'll be reviewing it, a Hammer Horror with Peter Cushing, because we're celebrating Peter Cushing, so we'll look into those here. Paul is saying to us, the film has a fairy tale vibe to it, which works so well. I think I know what you mean there, but that whole bit of cutting off the head, that just really took me by surprise.
Yeah. I agree with Paul, but it's a very dark fairy tale. It's very Brothers Grimm.
Adult fairy tale, yes, I agree. Yeah.
Well, it is a bit of an adult one because you've got those suggestions there, haven't you? The sexual connotations. They're all going on. Very 1971, but I honestly, that bit there, that was for me the standout bit where I just thought, oh my god, oh, he's did it. And then again, the performance from Cushing, done.
All a day's work.
Yes. Probably go home now and have tea.
But then he goes and gently lays the head by the body and covers it.
Yes, with that bit of respect there for his niece.
Yeah.
And you can almost see the Rent-A-Kill van park just at the side of the set.
But there's the other thing as well, where Count what's it here? I mean, what a coward. He's not a proper vampire, is he? I mean, all right, he's only 10 minutes into the job, but he's not going to make it for 150 odd years, is he? No, he's a right coward, that one, because he just looks at it and goes, ah, bang, closes the door, minces off. I mean,
well, being a vampire is all about self-preservation.
It's like, oh God, that's going to happen to me next. I better run.
Yeah,
and also,
he sends her out first because he thinks there's something going on out there. There might be a trap, so he sends the girl out first, and he's absolutely right. The trap is there, and then he just goes, ah! I can't believe it. What a wuss!
Yeah. But yet more acting kudos to Peter Cushing on his death scene with an axe in his back.
Spoiler alert, by the way. Now that's the other thing I couldn't. I mean, I thought, hang on a minute, they've just walloped Peter Cushing's character. That's your star. What? Hang on a minute. There's no sequel to this one, then, obviously.
Quite convincing. No, it's quite nasty. Even Joachim's death as well is really quite brutal.
Well, I suppose that it's living up to the horror of the Hammer House of Horror fame, isn't it?
He's not even a vampire, though, and he gets staked.
Yeah. But again,
tomato sauce everywhere.
it's what the British Board of Film Censors would allow post 1917. You could just see Hammer going, right, we can have somebody getting their head cleaved with a scimitar on camera, so we'll do that.
I mean, it is nice.
It's nice.
It's nicely done, though, isn't it? I mean, it suits the film, because that's what it's all about. And at some point during the film, I suddenly realised not many of them are going to get out alive. I was not expecting the Peter Cushing as the Witchfinder General. I was not expecting him to be chopped. I thought he's bound to get through this.
I mean, one thing about the film, though, is it doesn't trivialise violence. It shows that violence is violent.
That's very true. That is very, very true, isn't it? I mean, yeah. Ooh. I do want to point out the other performance here. It's this lady.
She's the goodie, isn't it? She's good.
Yeah. She's on her own a bit here, isn't she? She's such the way that this character is written is she's not as innocent as she comes back. She knows what's going on all around her, and I love the fact that at some point she, towards that end, she does challenge this husband that's been dominating her for decades. Probably. She's living in fear with him, and she sees it happening in her nieces. She realized that one's run off because of that. She's rebelled against him. The other one's going to live in fear like she's done, and she actually stands up. What a wonderful element of the story for 1971.
She's
lovely performance. Yeah. I mean, do you guys know the work of this lady? Was she in a lot of them?
I think she was not in Black Narcissus. I think Kathleen Byron. No.
She might have been. I mean, she was a very so well known. Her name's just completely gone out of my head.
Kathleen Byron.
Catherine Byron, yes. She had a very impressive CV. I think she did 2 or 3 Hammers. I'm trying to think of the other ones she was in. That stumped me.
I mean, it's not Hammer, but for some reason, Black Narcissus stands out in my mind.
She was in Saving Private Ryan.
Good heavens.
Goodness me, was she?
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. It's a fantastic performance from her.
Oh, it's lovely.
She's sort of like the conduit to the audience, going, this guy's moral compass is wrong. I know it, but there's nothing I can't do about it.
She's terrified.
Yeah, she is.
She's absolutely terrified, and that really comes across in the performance and the way it's written. And I just thought, wow, I'm immediately, sort of. I thought at the end she's gonna be the one that's bumping people off eventually to try and free herself. I was wrong with that, but you know what I mean? There was that suggestion there, but I would say she is so suppressed, she is so frightened, she'll do anything to try and get out of it all. And I thought she's going to kill off the count, she's going to kill off her, the witch finder. She'll be the one that with the girl.
Aunt Katie, no, but she didn't.
No, she didn't. They got me there on that one. The violence would be very nasty if it wasn't for the very bright red tomato sauce, blood gushing everywhere, says Stephen Braddock. Yeah. I'm so glad it was tomato sauce though, because they are gruesome deaths, aren't they?
Yeah, I have to say that scene where the blood's dripping through the coffin onto the remains of Mia Carla. It's like, what? Somebody just turned a shower on, the pressure and the speed and the amount that was coming through.
Yeah, I mean, it's all done around that sort of sexy moment, isn't it? Really, and it's all like, hang on a minute, what's going on here, you rotten people? What you're all psychiatrists, you production team lot. Pete's saying to us, the Witchfinder General at the end, an axe, I think that was frightening to me, just the way it was shot. It was sickly. Yeah, I understand what you mean. And I suppose if you're quite young and you see that, it's quite graphic, isn't it? And it is a shock. I did not realize that Peter Cushing character got bumped off in this.
Well, in Witchfinder General, which Peter's referring to, the end of the film, Vincent Price as Matthew Hopkins, the Witchfinder General, is literally cut to pieces by Ian Ogilvy.
Oh, I thought let's stick to this film, people. I don't know all these other films. Can we stick to the Twins of Evil? Stop confusing me all, because you're confusing me all.
As he gets the axe, though, he's so deep out beneath. He still crosses himself, doesn't he?
Sorry, Ian, what's that? I can't hear.
Sorry, I went with. Did you go first?
What did you say? I couldn't hear you.
I just said that when he got hit by the axe, he knows he's going to die, but he's so committed. He sort of like crosses himself. He absolves himself, doesn't he? Because he knows death's coming. He knows it's his time. He's that committed.
And it's a little bit OTT, I must admit, with a huge big staircase that suddenly appears from nowhere, from what I can tell. But there you go. And what were you saying there, Pete?
No, I'm just saying they both axed for it. Matthew Hopkins gets, as George says, that's a similarity. They both end up getting axed. Two of them, Peter Cushing and Vincent Price.
Oh, right, okay. Well, that's not this film, though, is it? You're confusing me again. You're
No,
confusing me again.
but I'm thinking. I thought it was the comment. I thought the comment was.
Yeah, you're all confusing me with all these other films.
That's
Stick to the one we're talking about. I've only seen this one.
Sorry.
Right. Okay. So what else? The other one that I want to do as well is talking about this particular scene where they all get bumped off at the end. I felt it was a bit rushed, and I felt it was very convenient. And it reminds me of the Disney film with Beauty and the Beast, where all the villagers come along. With all the pitch dogs and all this sort of stuff. I thought this is a traditional anime, but it felt a little bit rushed because suddenly one's sliced and the head's lolloping off, and then the other one is in danger from the count, and then suddenly woof, he gets a great big clothes pegging him from nowhere. That's a great shot, by the way. Well, how did he do that from down there?
Yes.
Superhero shot.
Yes. Yeah, and to throw it with the force to impale him as well, rather than just hit him.
It was amazing.
He wouldn't ever go out hunting the boar, would he? So where did he learn?
It was, but I did feel that ending was just a bit rushed to get it in the time, the 81 minutes.
That's something that can be said of a lot of Hammers, that the denouement sometimes seems a bit perfunctory, and oh right, we've only got 2 minutes of screen time left. We need to tie everything up and get the end credits on.
I think in comparison to some of their other ones, that actually doesn't look rushed at all. But you'll know what I mean when you get to see those.
Oh, I don't know. You see, it's very obvious, and I know that it's very obvious. Everybody in the chat knows more about these films than I do as well, so it's absolutely brilliant. You've got to stay with me, guys, because because we've got to. I haven't seen any of them. This is only my second Hammer horror, so stay with me as I'm learning about these.
You've got the joy of seeing this huge catalogue of really enjoyable movies.
That's exactly what we're doing. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing here. It's going to be great here on Who's Views as we get through them all. Smiley People is saying to us, there's something very comforting about the Hammer and Carry On movies. I remember the producers half here. Is it half here? What happened there?
We're about to carry on screaming.
I don't know. Is that a typo? Anyway, but thank you for that, Smiley People. Thank you for that. Hey B is saying, I thought all the red was paint. It was just too red. I think it was either a Crown or a Dulux. Yes.
It was actually a concoction called Kensington Gore, which Hammer had the copyright on for fake blood. But yes, it's a concoction called Kensington Gore, and there is actually a how to make your own Kensington Gore video available on YouTube should you want to make a bucket of it.
And I think I think a lot of the pubs in Soho were always all painted in that colour during the
probably.
Listen, as part of this, I also want to say thank you very much to our friend Daryl Joyce, because Daryl, of course, is a Hammer horror fan, and he actually paints an awful lot of his own interpretations of the posters, and he's allowed us to show this one. If you haven't seen this one, this is his interpretation of the Twins of Evil.
I have seen that before. It is stunning. That is beautiful.
It's absolutely fabulous. And there's the green you're all talking about, everybody.
Yes. He's clearly got some of those offcuts off the cutting room floor, hasn't he?
There's a couple of things on that which make me think you wouldn't see that outside your local Odeon.
Well, two or three.
I don't know.
Definitely. There's a few pointers there. I want to contact Daryl to see where he got that. If you got some inspiration.
I'm sure he must have done from somewhere, but I think that's great. I think that again, images and captions, absolutely brilliant. And that poor woman in the middle there, look at that. Oh, absolutely terrifying. But what a great piece of work. Thank you for that, Daryl.
Beautiful.
We love showing all those things, don't we? Peter Venkman is saying about that, the twins. Frank Spencer is again saying there's not wrong with that. That's his catchphrase for this entire show. Not wrong with that. Pete saying to us here, yes, Daryl's beautiful Hammer posters are just wonderful, aren't they? Aren't they just rather? Aren't they? They're just amazing. And Stephen Braddock, that is stunning. It's semi-erotica horror art right there. Now, this is the thing about this is also what I quote. This is going into this particular film because I remember growing up in the 70s as a kid, and a lot of this stuff was off limit to me as a kid because it was semi-erotica as well. So that seems to have crept into some of the horror stuff. You know, the vampires get a little bit more hello.
Going into the 70s, the not just Hammer but all the horror producers, horror got noticeably sexier than it had been previously.
Yeah. Daryl's Hammer art is terrific, says Paul Richards. And David Harding is saying to me, I sense some movie homework in your future. That's exactly what these shows are all about. And paying homage to Peter Cushing and watching these Hammer House of Horror films and celebrating these British icons of a bygone era, because they're never coming back. Let's face it, they're not coming back. It's like we're doing the carry-ons as well for that very celebrate the British comedy. And I am very excited to see where we go to next with all of these. Am I right?
Watching tonight?
Sorry?
So what are you watching tonight?
I'm too busy. One every other month is enough for me. Armour Ray is saying Italy and Japan have the most risque posters. I did some research on Hammer posters.
Yeah. Well, that reflects the attitudes and the audience demands of those territories, because it's well known that back in the day, Hammer used to shoot alternate versions of sequences in films, particularly for the Japanese market. Where, for example, the Mummy that Peter mentioned earlier, there's a scene where all the Nubian maids carry in all the stuff to the pyramid for the burial chamber, and they're wearing white smocks. That was refilmed for the Japanese market, and they were topless.
Madam. Absolutely outrageous. Armour Ray is saying, can we have a link to Daryl's site or art? I don't know who we've got in the chat from our team there, whether Garbage or Kirsty's in there, but I can tell you actually, if you look up on the Book of Face, you know where I'm talking about there, and just put in Daryl Joyce, he'll come up, and he's got another one as well, which is Daryl Joyce's art or something like that. But I'll try and remember to put it into our chat as well after the show. But he's around; you can get him there. Absolutely fantastic. We are going to be looking at our usual feature on these review shows. We're going to be looking at scores on the Mad Scientist doors in a few minutes. That's where, if you're new to the show, you get to rate this particular film out of 10 on that one. But yeah, start thinking about that and you can start rating them in a second. But I just say I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. How enlightening was this? Not what I expected at all. But I'm really pleased that I saw it from the very beginning, where it starts with all this sort of stuff going on. I thought, well, this is different.
Just point out on that the lady being burnt at the stake is an actress called Judy Matheson.
Hello, Judy.
Yes, Judy's on record as saying, again, she had quite a career back in the day, did lots and lots of stuff. She said the high point of her career was doing a scene with Peter Cushing.
Isn't that lovely? Yeah. Isn't that? And that's why we're here, everybody, to celebrate the legend that is and was Mr. Peter Cushing. What a talent! What a talent! We are so lucky, aren't we? Really, all of us. That we were around when these people are around, because we're never getting their likes again. We really aren't. Goodness knows where we'll end up next on Whose Views Reviews, the Hammer House of Horror series that we're all putting together. No idea, but I do know where we're going to next, and it's this. Absolutely, it's now time for our panel and you guys in the chat to start putting your scores into the chat, please. Out of 10 for the scores on the Mad Scientist door. Out of 10, please. I'm going to start first of all with Pete. Out of 10, what are you going to give the this film, The Twins of Evil? Nah.
Oh, an outstanding 8.
Ooh, outstanding 8. How exciting! So 8 out of 10 for Pete. All right, then, George, what are you going to give this one?
Well, this one's to me is a very atypical Hammer film, as we discussed. Yeah, it's beautifully made. It looks like it was made on a much bigger budget than it was actually made for. Peter Cushing gives an outstanding performance in it, though that's tempered with the knowledge of what was happening in his own life at the time, which sort of gives it a very sad tinge. It's very enjoyable. If you want to see a film that's textbook Hammer horror, I don't think this is it, but it is a great film. Like Peter, I think it's an 8 out of 10.
Wonderful. High score. So, Dr. Ian.
I concur with these two fine gentlemen. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful example of its era. Fond memories of it, and it didn't disappoint watching it again in the harsh light of the 21st century. 8 out of 10.
Oh, very, very good. Very good. As I've said a few times on this show, first time watching this for me, and it was not what I expected. I will use the word crikey every time I talk about this film now for many, many different reasons. I absolutely adored it. I really, really enjoyed it, and I got into it very quickly. And as I say, once I've realized that it wasn't what I expected, which was, oh, there's the good guys and there's the bad guys, and then just suddenly realized, just go with this because everybody's out to get everybody else. I thought it was really, really good. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 as well. And I can't wait to see where we go next, quite frankly. But what Peter Cushing, as Kirsty would say, chef's kiss. What a performance. Even when he was going on with all that was in his personal life. What a pro. Absolute pro. Let's go over to the Who viewers in the chat and see what you're giving it. John is saying 8 out of 10. Very entertaining. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Michael Q is saying to us, I give the Twins of Evil 7 out of 10. Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. Armour Ray is saying 11. And I dread to think, I'm not sure why, something perked my interest in this movie. Oh, dear. Oh, I hate to think. Peter Harrington, Peace is saying to us 8 for The Beautiful Twins and Peter Cushing. Wow. Frank Spencer is also giving it 8 out of 10. Armour is also saying, yes, it is a great Peter Cushing performance. It really, really is, isn't it? Mark is with us as well. Mark McIntosh. It's one of Hammer's best 70s films. I'm giving it a 10. Wow. Thank you so much for that, Mark. How many did they do in the 70s then, everybody? How many have I got to look forward to in the 70s?
Must have been about 40 plus.
Oh, my God. I thought you were going to say about 5.
Not all horror in the 70s.
Yeah. I mean, they were doing a lot of comedies, TV spin-offs, dramas, that sort of thing as well.
Peter Cushing's not known all of them, though, surely.
No, not at all. No. Yeah, okay. I mean, Hammer's final film in the 1970s, which was their last film for a long, long time, was actually a remake of The Lady Vanishes in 1979.
Oh, that's a popular one for these filmmakers, isn't it? It never seems to go away. The Lady Vanishes
with
they do it on stage as well, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they could do it brilliantly on stage these days, I guess. Cara, Twins of Evil, 9 out of 10, because I really like it. Well, good for you, Cara. I love that. It's completely daft in places, but I do enjoy it. I know what you mean by that and totally agree with you, Cara. It is a little bit daft, but I quite liked it as well. I do like that sort of campness that comes through it. You know, it's just like, oh, I don't know, that's very British. I love that.
Very theatrical, I think.
Yeah. I'd give the Twins an 8 out of 10, I'm sure, says Paul Richards. And Dracula 1958 would be great to have next, or Vampire Circus. Well, we will let you know in due course, Paul, because we'll be back to Hammer Horror as soon as possible. David Harding is saying to us, based purely on my memory of seeing it a few years ago, a 9 out of 10. This is brilliant stuff. This film is, 50 years old? Superb. A twintastic, see what you did there, Stephen. 8 out of 10 for this fine movie and Cushing's startling performance. Great way to say that. It is a startling performance. Is one of his very best. Ooh. Oh, that's nice to know. Julianne. Love a Peter Cushing film. 8 out of 10, says Julianne. Hey B is also saying, I liked Hugh Jackman as Van Helsing. Ooh. Thanks for that. Peter Fenwick fan set 9 for Cushing. Atmosphere, characterization definitely on fire. Hey, again, he's here all week. What else we got? Paul Rose, hello to you. He's saying, evening, gents. Just got done and the phone's out of juice, but watching. Thank you, Paul. Nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in. And so Sydney Rough Diamond is saying 8 out of 10. Best of the Karnstein films, in my opinion. Yeah, we didn't actually mention people that put this together. We didn't mention the director or the writers or anything. Sorry about that. We should have done, but we didn't. That's their fault. What else we got there? Oh, and Hey B is saying 8 out of 10. Great. Thank you, Hey B.
That seems to be the consensus.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's been really well received. Frank Spencer, there is a fair few Hammer films to get through, JT. I'm jealous you haven't seen them. Yeah, I suppose it works the other way because, we say this about people that are new to original Doctor Who, proper Doctor Who. So I sort of get where you're coming from on that one. And this is the favourite for Yokai 63 of this Karnstein trilogy, 8 out of 10. See, I told you at the top of the show we'd have an awful lot of messages and saying this is proving it.
It's a very loose trilogy. You don't have to have seen the previous two to to watch Twins of Evil. There's a very loose connection between the three of them.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't need to know that. I didn't know it was a trilogy because they're so well done. I didn't need to know, so that's really, really good. And Pete Harrington is saying Captain Kronos would be great. Well, Caroline Munro is in it. Is that the Kenny Everett character? Oh, that's Captain
Kremen. What's Captain Kremen?
Yes. Yeah, no, I love him. Might review him one day. Dalek Eye says, I've been watching, guys. It's 9 out of 10. It's got Peter Cushing in it. What more do you need?
True.
Absolutely true. Have you got any more for any more in there? Otherwise, I'll call it. Well, thank you so much for that, guys. Absolutely wonderful. It's brilliant that you've all got this knowledge, and you can manage to confuse me very, very quickly with all this as we go from filter. But no, I have to say, yeah, what a great choice. Twins of Evil, really enjoyed it. And looking forward to the next one. We come back to that. So thank you so much. Cara is also saying to me here, hang on a minute, JT, and you know that the surname Karnstein comes from Sheridan Le Fanu's novel Novella Camilla. I didn't, because I know nothing about this genre. I'm learning through all. I know nothing.
The first of the three, The Vampire Lovers, is very loosely based on Sheridan Le Fanu's novel.
Yeah. Well, I've got all that to look forward to, haven't I?
It was Harry Fine for Fan Tao that approached Hammer with the idea of doing it. He wanted to do that.
Is that where it's all come from then?
Yeah. He was wanting to make a film of Camilla.
Amazing. And so it just developed into what we got because of the twins, basically. Gosh, it shows you, doesn't it? Reality TV stars of the 21st century. Watch out. That's all I'm saying to you. Have you heard of those two? Neither have I. That's all I'm saying. Right, okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this as we looked at this wonderful, wonderful film. I'm so impressed with this. Stay with us here on Who's Views. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. If you have, please make sure that you are still subscribed to our channel. We will be returning to open the doors of the Hammer House of Horror. See what I did there? At some point in the future, absolutely. We will all go and discuss which film to watch next. And then we'll tell you about it and we'll get going on that. To George, to Pete, to Third Doctor Ian, thank you very much for taking the time out to watch the film and coming to talk about it. And for confusing me.
Thank you. Thanks.
Looking forward to the next one, everybody. And for you watching us at home, lovely to see you all. Take care of each other. And we will see you again very, very soon. Ciao then. See you later.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.